Welcome to this episode of Views from the Top, the podcast from Arma Partners. I'm delighted today to welcome Lee Perkins of Civica.
Hi, Paul.
Well, Lee, it's good to have the opportunity to sit down again together today. Before we start and ask you a few questions, can you remind us about your background, please?
Sure. So I'm the CEO of Civica, about 500 or so million pound software company headquartered in the UK. Recently, the last 2 years, acquired by Blackstone, but been in private equity hands for nearly 20 years now. And our focus is on GovTech software, so specifically local government, but in the UK, Australia and North America.
And during that time, you've been through different periods of ownership by different private equity investors. Can you tell us a little bit more about the consistent themes in terms of the DNA of the business, which and how each of the owners of the business have contributed to its evolution as well?
Yeah, the business has evolved, to your point, over a number of years and a number of cycles and through hands of different financial sponsors, but some things have remained very, very consistent. And at the heart of things has been the service of citizens. So serving citizens is our core purpose. That's why we exist. And that's stayed broadly the same. What we've sought to do over more recent time is to build on the great work done by the founder and the leadership teams over various cycles to really focus the business down on three core software verticals, which are local government, health and education. And really focusing down has helped us accelerate our cloud transformation as a business, and it's also helped us develop a much greater readiness for the AI transformation that's in front of all of us right now.
Which we will talk about in a minute, as you can imagine. But before we do that, when you took over as CEO, the business was very much at an inflection point. When you took control, how did you set priorities in terms of technology and R&D in particular?
Well, it was quite clear that there was a lot of great DNA to build from, some hugely talented people, some great customer relationships. But focusing hard on go-to-market, on product, and also thinking about other value creation levers, particularly around M&A, were always going to be very important for us. Yeah. The portfolio is broad, so circa 75, 80 products. So we knew that we were going to have to narrow our focus and place bigger bets on smaller number of products, really centered around local government, and that's what we've sought to do.
And that's what you call, I believe, customer-led strategy, simpler, streamlined line of products. Why was it necessary, and how did you set your priorities?
It became clear that the markets that we're in are going to go through a pretty systemic change themselves. And more recently in the UK, we found local government reorganisation has been a catalyst for that. The legislative changes that were announced in December, just over a year or so ago. But what we found was a number of our customers were using very, very bespoke software, and they needed somebody to come to them both with conviction about what we wanted to deliver for them and help them modernize the way that they work, ultimately because they need to become more productive to deliver better services to citizens. So really focusing down through that lens, ultimately with the citizen in mind, is the way we prioritized.
You mentioned citizens. Civica is obviously deeply embedded in the daily life of British citizens. How does that influence the way you run your business and set priorities? Again, what you do has a very direct impact on the British population.
It dramatically affects what we do. You know, our software directly or indirectly touches around 100 million citizens every day around the world. And the core purpose of the business being serving citizens is a huge motivator, and it creates lots of urgency for our folks, you know, whether it's your mums, dads, brothers, sisters, girlfriends, boyfriends, husbands, wives, whoever it might be. What we do every day has a really tangible impact on the life experiences of people in a health environment, in an education environment, or just in the communities that they live in. So people are hugely motivated, but there's also a gravity to the responsibility. We know that we've got to deliver for people. And we're participating in a market that hasn't historically been a huge innovator. It's sometimes been more slow moving. So there's been some catch up to put us in the position where we are now.
And you've alluded to AI earlier. You'd be disappointed if I didn't mention AI. I know you were one of the early adopters, and it's now embedded in many of the things you do. Can you tell us a little bit more, please, how you embraced AI and how that helped you define your strategy?
Sure. We decided to split our focus into three things. How we operate Civica as a modern business, leveraging all of the capability that new technology provides, including AI. So how we operate, how we as a software company write better, more relevant software more quickly and with greater quality, and ultimately how we reshape the value propositions for our customers using AI so that we can deliver some differentiated experiences for them. And you're right, we've been implementing AI in all three of those areas for some time now. So whether it's in the implementation of new tooling and systems, in terms of CRMs and finance systems and lots of automation in the back end, there's been a lot of that. And I think most companies, regardless of your core focus, have made some strides or other in that space. As a software vendor, though, we've had to work really hard and experiment.
Yeah.
But in a very committed way. So rather than multiple pilots, be very crisp and pick some big bets where we wanted to try and do some things in a transformational way. And there are several examples over the last year or so in particular where we've had massive acceleration in our ability to deliver better software more quickly.
And you operate obviously in the public sector. So many companies we talk to, when they embrace AI, experiment, and they move fast, but they break things, and then they try again. You don't have that luxury. In the public sector, failure is not an option. How do you reconcile the two things, not disappointing your very important public sector customers, but trying new things and moving fast and staying at the cutting edge?
I think there's two things that we've tried to do. One is, where is it safe to experiment? And that's typically the behind the line of production delivery. So we can do a lot before we get to the line of production and release. The other thing that we found is massively important is actually doing the experimentation with the customers, not just for them. So getting the customers into the tent to actually do the work with us and often co-create what these new value propositions look like, mean the potential gap or misalignment once you ultimately come to production is a much lower risk.
And how do you decide whether AI is part of the core solution from the start or is added on later on as some sort of bolt-on functionality?
It's really different when you're an incumbent in the markets versus a startup. So there's an imperative, if you like, in terms of the way you use AI, whether it's modernizing existing software or whether it's what you use to underpin your capability to build new software. It's omnipresent now. Sometimes we find it's in the improvement of the core systems of record that we build, and that's really what we are. We're a vertical software provider. Thankfully, in this challenging time, we're not a horizontal point solution. We're a vertical software provider, but there's real value to be added on top of the systems of record, as well as improving those core functions as well.
Thank you. Let's talk about your team a little bit. You deal in a world with characterized by rapid change. You're embracing AI. How do you build a team that is ready for today, but also ready to face the challenges of tomorrow and evolve at that sort of speed?
I think my appearance probably gives me away. I've been through a number of these cycles. So whether it was the cloud transformation, whether it was application service providers in the late 1990s, the 2001 IT recession, obviously global financial crisis, and so on and so on. The characteristics of the teams have remained the same, even if the individual skill sets and domain capabilities have evolved slightly. So at times like this, particularly being a large cap PE-backed business, I felt it was really important to have people who'd got some scar tissue. We knew we were going to be making some transformational moves within the business, and we suspected, we weren't quite that clever, we suspected there would be moves in the macro market as well. So we wanted to get talent into the business that had been through some of these challenging and transformational cycles before. And we sought to pick people who'd got some PE experience because that massively helps with the translation layer with our investors, but it also helps with the urgency in action. But then we had to focus on what characteristics do those people have that was translatable into where we really are now. And if you're trying to hire a chief AI officer and you look to the shelf of chief AI officers, there's not many on there.
Yeah.
right? So you have to pick those people that have demonstrated real technology prowess, but huge curiosity and a desire to get in and innovate and get involved and work really, really closely with customers. So it's a tough thing to do, to craft these leadership teams, but the chemistry and character I've found to be super important. And now really investing to educate those teams and to try and democratize AI so as many people in your business can get the benefit from it. That's the approach we're taking, at least.
So you have the right team, you have the right products and product offering, very loyal customers, a large addressable market. Tell us more about the business in 5 years from now. What will it look like?
I think our business is going to be more concentrated in 5 or 10 years than it is today. We've been on that journey over the last 3 or 4 years, but our core DNA is in local government and the services that surround that. And that might be education services and it might be health services, because many of them do orientate through the local government buying processes. My particular view is there is an opportunity to build a composable way of delivering value across these many, many systems of record that can deliver a significantly better connected citizen experience. To do that, you've really got to build great data capability, you've got to build great platform capability, and you've got to be able to demonstrate, as people interact with your software, that it looks and feels like one, even if there are many different things behind the scenes. So a more consolidated business, much more prominent data focus, and really doubling down on those core systems of record and on the last mile for our customers. So one thing that I've learned a lot about Civica in the last 3 years, the last mile, as we describe it, really matters. So because of the starting position of our customers, there is always a really significant integration piece of work to do at the end. What we're trying to do is make sure that integration is on top of a core system of record that everybody can benefit from, rather than building the customization into the core code, which has been a challenge for software companies like Civica for many, many years. But it's how that last mile becomes more about configuration and how you're able to do it with a low code, no code approach, and you can put more of the authority in the hands of the people and your customers.
Thank you very much, Lee, for joining us. Very insightful, as always. Thank you to our listeners for joining us also today. I'm Paul Gelly. This was Views from the Top. Join us for the next installment, please, coming soon.